In the universe of Lookism, several strong characters reign and hold power in this universe. Some household names being the Kim family, the Yamazaki family, and the Park family. But what I've always wondered is, in the plentiful amount of bloodlines in Lookism, which one would be the one to rule them all? Hi, my name's Kaiseni, and I consistently cover topics in manga from A to Z, and in today's video we're gonna be comparing all of the bloodlines in Lookism to see which family would be the strongest. But very quick, over 90% of people who watch my videos are not subscribed, so if you like the content I make, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later. But with that being said, the niceties out of the way, I present to you ranking bloodlines in Lookism. At the last spot in Lookism's family branch is the Song family. Notable characters in the Song name are Hansu and Taehoon Song, as well as Johan Seong. In Viral Hit, the Song bloodline has always been known for their excellency in the martial art of Taekwondo, with only Johan diverging from this pattern. But what makes the Song family remarkable is just how capable they are with Taekwondo. In Hansu's earlier days as a rogue Taekwondo athlete, he was one of the men sent by Korea to terrorize North Korea. And if you're well versed in the Lookism verse, you'd know how seriously powerful the North Korean forces are in the comics. But that only speaks volumes as to how powerful the Song family actually is. In Viral Hit, Taehoon Seong is said to have surpassed his father in his youth in terms for strength, being able to combat trained Korean mobsters and even go toe-to-toe with a terrifying Yakuza member with years upon years of experience under his belt. His mastery over ITF and WTF Taekwondo is truly remarkable, along with him learning a new animal-themed technique, and it's a fact for sure that Songs are not to be trifled with. We haven't even approached the prodigious fighting genius that is Johan Seong. Johan Seong, although stated to be not of the Song family, but carrying that name we might as well include him, right? If you thought the Song family had enough firepower already, adding Johan Seong is like pouring gasoline over a pit of flames. A copy genius extraordinaire, he's copied an incredible amount of formidable opponents like Zach Lee, Daniel Park, and Vasco, just to name a few. But surprisingly, I didn't come here to talk about Johan's strength, but rather his connections. See, what we're measuring here is dominance, taking both physicality and influentiality into account. Johan is a very recognized name throughout Seoul and everywhere, being recognized as the head of God Dog, one of the 4 major crews. With this title and esteem, he's sure to be able to make territories submit to him and his family's rule. With Taehoon also being known throughout Gangbuk as well as Seoul, I think if Hansu were a little more ambitious and cruel, they could form one of the most powerful underground mob society Korea's ever seen, with the Song family on top of it all. And if you think that's impressive, then hold on to your seats as we proceed to number 5. With the recent conclusion of the recent Chon Liang arc, I've decided that the Moojin family deserves the number 5 spot in the bloodline ranking. Picture this. Alone deep in the mountains of Chon Liang lies mysterious beasts that can end you with just their grip. Or at least that's what the rumors say. The Moojin family is a top 5 simply for their strength. Assuming Jin Moojin is still alive, not only does Chon Liang never undergo invasion by Shin Myung in the first place, having Moojin lead Chon Liang and its people would become a vassal of strength. What I think makes the Jin family more capable than the Song family is not only do they have the superior type of strength, but as well as the influence having an entire Chon Liang at their disposal, with the region wholeheartedly believing in the capabilities of Moojin, Songji, and Vin, as well as the rest of the Judo fam. What I think also helps them more is Moojin's obvious connections with the members of the 0th generation, seeming as even Gapryong's men know who he is and consider him a rival to their own leader. And their connections don't stop there, as their influentiality is generational, with Seongji being affiliated with the powers of the 1st generation as well. With Moojin still alive and kicking, the Judo fam's strength would skyrocket to dangerous heights, especially Seongji and Vin's. Imagine if Seongji never stopped learning from Moojin and Vin started to take advantage of Moojin's Caesarium at an early age. This upscales Chon Liang's power immensely, having the power of a region built on trust and dependency, as well as having arguably one of the most powerful fighters on the list. Knowing the personality of Seongji and vaguely Moojin's, the Judo fam would likely be very pacifistic, but if threats arise to the well-being of those in Chon Liang, the Moojin family will not rest and will not go down without a fight, giving them a spot above the Songs and being placed at number 5. Up next on the list is the Choi family, with its key members being Charles Choi and Crystal Choi. In the Lookism universe, the Choi family is recognized for their cunning attitude and intellect, as well as their being ambitiousness. With dignity comes power, and the Choi family does not lack any of it. With its head Charles Choi being a former number 2 to Korea's most infamous gang in the 0th generation, even then he was infamous for his leadership skills and his ability to hold his own in combat. The 0th generation wasn't exactly a time of peace and quiet, and in fact quite the opposite. With the era being riddled with gang activity and led by strong fighters all around, it's quite a statement that Charles was able to become the number 2 of the most powerful gang at the time, and I'm sure we're all familiar with his combat prowess, being the prime user of the invisible attack. And he's no stranger to getting his own hands dirty to get what he wants. On top of all of this, in the entirety of the Lookism universe, he probably holds the most amount of important information in the series, information that concern the tides of war, for example, his knowledge on the second body. His influence in the universe isn't lacking either. Taking verse equalization into account here, if his plans were to come to fruition, that would mean that he would have all the 4 major crews, excluding God Dog because Johan is all the way in the Song's family, practically having Seoul in a sick monopoly that's under his control. And if anyone tries to mess with him or wants to be stubborn, he could simply send James, Gunn, and or Gu to do his bidding, and if it comes to it, all 3. When it comes to devising plans, like he isn't enough already, he would have the workers' head Eugene to help him with his escapades and ventures. But circling back to why I think Charles' most important weapon is information. See, Charles knows things that others wouldn't be able to bear, and the secret between the 2 bodies is just the tip of the iceberg. Who knows what type of information he holds and how he's capable of obtaining them. For example, using Crystal as a sort of spy, his strength in tandem with his intellect and vast knowledge definitely solidifies his place as the number 4 in the Lookism Bloodline rankings. Now that we're getting to the number 1, 2, and 3 spots, make sure to check if you're subscribed or not, since YouTube has this crazy glitch that unsubscribes you for no reason at all. So be sure to check for me, will you? At the number 3 spot is the Hong family, with its core members being Jae Hong and Steve Hong. Arguably having more influence over Korea than Charles Choi, Chairman Hong holds one of the most powerful reserves in terms of influentiality and power, starting off with his vast connections through the 0th generation powers, through Sophia, and even his own. As stated by him in the newest chapter of Lookism, that if Eugene had connections to people all over Korea and internationally, Chairman Hong is probably friends with their father, which is such a power move from Chairman Hong. With that out of the way, we can already assume that he has connections with Jin Chol through Sophia, therefore Manager Kim and Samdak and even Hansu in this case. That means through his friends in the 0th generation, his connections run deep. So in no way are they lacking in power and influence. The reason I say that Chairman Hong may have more influence than Charles is because how easily he was able to wrap the commissioner of the police force around his finger. We haven't even seen that much power from Charles in any way, shape, or form. He's a well-established chaebol in Korea, making his name even more powerful. He's so popular that he has to go undercover when going out to investigate things himself. With Jae Hong by his side, he also has access to the forces of the 2nd generation, making his connections and power supply more versatile. In turn, this grants him power to go up against other formidable forces in the Bloodline rankings, granting him this number spot of number 3. As for the number 2 spot, I've thought long and hard about which family to place in 2nd place. Would it be the legends of the Park family or the infamous Yamazaki family? And in my opinion, these 2 bloodlines are quite even in terms of power and influence, so I've decided to put them at both number 2 as equals. The Park family is known for its copy prodigies Jin Young Park and Daniel Park in order, having the ability to perfectly copy any opponent they've encountered. Their compatibility alone scales them above the Choi and Hong family. Along with their fighting prowess that can easily dominate both the 2nd and 1st generation, what makes them even more dangerous of a threat is the underground influence the Park family possesses. Again, having 2 spearheads from 2 separate generations, and even 3 if you include the most recent connection to the Parks, Yeonwoo Kim, which I speculate may be Jin Young's lover. With the relationship with Jin Young has with Yeonwoo, they now control an underground group of Gen 0 fathers, having them at their disposal. With Jin Young's control over the 0th generation's men and Daniel Park's connections with the 2nd generation, they might just be one of the most powerful families in terms of influence and strength in this ranking. Just the park's name alone can be used as a sword to make any lesser bloodline like the Song stand down. And this is precisely why I think the parks deserve the number 2 spot along with the Yamazakis. The Yamazakis are infamous for being the most powerful and notorious family in Japan. There's a reason why they're so feared. Having members like the Yamazaki clan head, Gun Park, and Yangakcha, just their fighting prowess alone would be enough to scare anyone who has knowledge of their name. And in terms of influentiality, they aren't necessarily lacking either. Having taken over an entire country, no doubt that they have an entire country at their disposal. Some information is still very much hidden from us, but at this point it wouldn't be surprising to find out that they have connections all over Korea as well. Charles Choi I think being one of them. Being dormant in the story so far, I just hope that no one dares to mess with him or else they'll face the wrath of the demon clan Yamazaki. As for the number 1 spot on the list, I think it deservedly goes to the spearhead of this year's generation, the Kim family. Being the most recognizable of its members, Gabrielle Kim, Jae Kim, and Yi-tae Kim, being the name that led the infamous 0th generation of Korea, it's almost no wonder that they made it onto the top of this list. Being both powerful and influential as well as ambitious, I do not think that there could be any other bloodline fit to rule them all other than the Kims. Gabrielle Kim's name alone strikes fear into the hearts of many, paving the way for connections is already such a massive statement as to how powerful the Kim family is. And if anyone dares to get in their way, they can just handle it by force as they simply fail to lack the power to do so. Gabrielle Kim is so incredibly powerful that he was able to make 3 of the most powerful and influential people bend to his will using words alone. That alone speaks to his influence as well as being the symbol of the 0th generation. Like the Yamazakis, he basically has an entire country under his control. His influence spans generations, with Yi-tae Kim leading the entire Mexican cartel as well as having connections to those in the 1st generation. Their strength and influence goes up exponentially, as now they have an entire international gang at their disposal as well. With Jake being an addition to the family, not only do they have Big Deal as friends, but also some remarkable people in the 2nd generation, including Daniel Park. Now, if that doesn't signify power, then I don't know what does. And that is my official ranking for the Bloodlines in Lookism. Be sure to leave your own list down in the comments, and so yeah.